Hi, welcome to Story Time with Rohini. Today I will narrate an African folktale as to how stories came onto the earth. Long ago, at the beginning of human race, at the beginning of time, the stories were not there on earth. They were owned by a god called Nyama who lived in the heavens. And he kept all the stories locked up in his treasure chest, which he kept right beside his chair on a stool. And no stories were there on the earth for little children to enjoy. And then one day, the old Spider-Man Anansi decided to buy the stories from the god Nyama. So he wove a huge spider web from the earth to the heavens and climbed on it and went to the god Nyama. And he said, "Dear god Nyama, I wish to buy your stories. Please name the price." And then Nyama laughed. He said, "It is impossible, Anansi, to buy my stories, because the price I ask will be very high." And then Anansi did not flinch. He still respectfully bowed and said, "Nyama, I do wish to buy your stories. I would want a price for them." And then Nyama wanted to test Anansi. So he said, "Anansi, as a price for my stories, I need 4 things from earth: Onini, the most strongest and powerful python; Osibo, the leopard with the terrible teeth; Mombaro, the hornets that sting like fire; and Maotia, the little fairy whom no man has ever seen. You bring these 4 things to me, and the stories will be yours," said Nyama. Anansi bowed low, thanked Nyama for quoting the price, and climbed down on his web, and he began collecting the price for the stories. He went to the forest and sat beside the tree where Onini the python lived. He knew the python to be a curious creature, so he just sat there with a very long stick, and he went on saying, "Could it be true? No, I don't think. Is it true? No, I don't think. It could be true, but is it really true?" He went on like this, and the python, Onini, heard him for a while, and then it said, "Anansi, what is it that is bothering you? What is it that you're going? Is it true? Is it not true? Why don't you ask me? I also can clarify certain things." And then Anansi said, "Oh, dear python, Onini, it is about you that I am talking." And then the python got alert and he said, "What is it, Anansi? What do you think is not true about me?" And then Anansi said, "My wife says you are taller than the stick, Onini, but I don't think it could be true. My wife says it's true, but I think it's not true." And then the python said, "Oh, just that? You think that's a huge matter? Come on now, you measure me and prove that your wife is right. I must be longer than the stick," said the python. Anansi then started measuring the python, but then he said, "Onini, I would have measured you, but the problem is there are certain curves, there are certain bends in your body which will not give out your true length unless I tie you to the stick." And then the python said, "If you have to measure me properly, you have to tie me to the stick. Why don't you tie me to the stick and then measure me so that you'll know that I'm longer than the stick?" And then Anansi was happy that his plan worked out, and he tied the python to the stick, and then he said, "Onini, my dear python, you are definitely as long as the stick, and you proved my wife right," he said. And then Onini the python smiled and said, Now that you know that I'm as long as the stick, or maybe a little bit longer, a wee bit longer, now untie me." And then Anansi said, "No, I'm not untying you. I'm taking you as a present to the God in the heavens, in Nyama, the owner of stories." And he carried the python and put it carefully near the tree. And then Anansi went on gathering the second prize, and that was catching the leopard, the terrible teeth Osibo. And Anansi went to the forest where Osibo lived. Now Osibo loved games, and when Osibo saw Anansi, it said, "Oh Anansi, you're just in time for my lunch. Why don't you lie down and let me eat you?" And then Anansi said, "Oh, I would love to lie down and let you eat me, but I wanted to play a game with you. And I thought all night about the game, and then I designed a new game for both of us." And then Osibo said, "Yeah, we'll play the game. I can always wait an hour before my lunch. Come on, let's play the game." "And what is the game?" asked Osibo curiously. Anansi said, "The game is called binding." And then Osibo said, "I never played this game, so how do we play it?" And then Anansi said, "It's very simple. First, I tie all your paws together, and then I untie you, and then you tie my paws together, and then you untie me. That's the game," he said. And then Osibo, the leopard, said, "Oh, I love this game. Why don't we play it?" And then Anansi got huge vines from the forest trees and tied the front paws of Osibo. And Osibo said, "Oh, I'm loving binding. Will you also bind my hind paws?" And then Anansi said, "Of course, I have to bind your hind paws also to finish the game." And he bound the front paws and the hind paws together with the thick vines of the forest. And then Osibo said, "Oh, now it's my turn to bind you, Anansi. Open the vines on me." And then Anansi said, "No, Osibo, I'm taking you as a present to the heaven god in Nyama, who's the owner of stories," he said. And then he took Osibo and put him near the tree where the python was there. And next it was Anansi's turn to get Mboro, the hornets that stung like fire. And Anansi went to the hornet's nest. And just before he reached the hornet nest, he took a gourd. And he emptied the gourd, and he made a hole at the tip of the gourd, so it looked like a bottle. And then he took some water in the gourd and sprinkled it on the hornet's nest. And he said, "Oh, it's raining, hornets, it's raining. Why don't you go into my gourd and keep yourself dry? Otherwise your wings will get wet and you will not be able to fly." And then the hornets, Momboro hornets, got alerted, and they were so in such a state of panic that they quickly went into the gourd calabash of being carried by Anansi. And the moment they went inside, Anansi plugged the lid of the gourd. And the hornet said, "Hello, Anansi. Now it's not raining. Thank you for protecting us, but let us out now." And Anansi said, "No way, because I'm taking you as a gift for the heaven god in Nyama, the owner of stories." And then Anansi had to collect just one more prize, that is Moatia, the fairy, whom no man has ever seen. And for that, Anansi had to work a little hard. He prepared a small wooden doll and put a lot of gum on the doll. And then he put a small bowl in the hand of the doll, and he filled it with yam paste. Now Moatia, the fairy, is known to love yam paste. And then Anansi took the little gum doll to the tree where Moatia lived, and he left it on the ground. Now the fairy danced and played and enjoyed, and when she came back to her tree, she saw the little doll. And when she saw the little doll, she was very pleased and went to have a closer look. And she saw the doll holding a bowl of yam pudding. And immediately the fairy ate the yam pudding, put the bowl back in the baby's hand, and said, "Come, baby, thank you for bringing me yam pudding. I love it." And then, of course, because it's a doll, it did not respond. And then the fairy said, "Doll, I just thanked you. Is it not your duty to say, 'You're welcome, my pleasure, most pleasant,' something like that? Don't you have any courtesy?" said the fairy. The gum doll, the gum baby, didn't respond still. And then Moatia kept trying to teach the doll some manners. And then she was angry and she said, "How rude you are, gum doll. You are not accepting my thank you. I'm going to slap you for this," she said. And then she stuck the baby's cheek, the doll's cheek. And then she finds that her hand got stuck on the cheek of the doll. And she said, "Oh, gum doll, how dare you catch my hand? I'm going to push you away with the other hand," she said. And she put the other hand on the baby's cheek, on the doll's cheek. And now both the hands of Moatia were stuck on the doll's cheeks. And she said, "Oh my God, I'm stuck. I have to free myself from this vicious gum doll," she said. And she put her feet on the gum doll and she started pulling herself. Once she started pulling herself, her feet also got stuck. And then Anansi came and Anansi said, "Moatia, the fairy whom no man has seen, I have caught you successfully," he said. And then the fairy said, "Anansi, please free me. I'll give you anything." And then Anansi said, "Moatia, I don't need anything because I am paying you as a price to get stories to earth, to the heaven god Nyama, the owner of stories," he said. And then he put Onini the python, Osibo the leopard with terrible teeth, Momboro the hornets that sting like fire, and Moatia, the fairy whom nobody has ever seen, in a huge web bag. And then again made a ladder from the earth to the heavens, clambered up on it, and went to Nyama, the heaven god, the owner of stories, and presented the gifts. And Nyama was so pleased that Anansi could get all the gifts for him that he demanded for the stories. And then he happily, pleasurably gave the treasure chest of stories to Anansi. Anansi thanked Nyama and climbed down his web, came onto the earth, and he put the treasure chest of stories on the earth and opened the lid. And immediately the stories flew all around the world, and everybody had stories in the world. And that is how stories came to the earth. And it is said that storytellers in Africa always begin a story by saying, "We don't really mean what we say is true, but a story is a story, and they come and they go. Let it come and let it go." That's how it is said stories came to earth. Thank you.